Hey guys, Mo. I've not been here in a hot minute. If you're unfamiliar with my channel, I'm all about vulnerability and I am an open book. I talk about life, trials, I talk about those highs, the lows of vulnerability, being a survivor of trafficking. I talk about like this healing journey, and I'm constantly coming out here to be that open book, and I really do genuinely love what I do, and I'm writing a book about it. Because being a survivor doesn't always mean being a survivor of what was the most traumatic. Sometimes being a survivor is also just being a survivor of other grievances and trials and abuse have happened throughout the years. And with that being said, there are many of us who suffer, I won't say suffer, but struggle with PTSD. Some of us have CPSD, which is complex, meaning you've had multiple back-to-back trials and traumas that have led you into that space. And I've been working really, really hard in my healing to not be medicated and do this all without medication. And I'll be the first to tell you I'm no longer that way. I can no longer. What I'm learning is sometimes that medication is what we need. The holistic way can only go so far. Sometimes if we are in these seasons and in this push and pull of life, sometimes we need a little bit of help. And it's okay to have help. There is a comedian out there who I absolutely adore. Her name is Taylor. You can find her special on Netflix. And she calls the medications we are on as arm floaties. Like, some people don't need the arm floaties. They can float through the water just fine and swim on their own. And some of us need our arm floaties so that we can swim and that our head is above water. Isn't that the truth? I've been very quiet recently because I've made some really big decisions with someone that I dearly love. I dearly love. Someone who we've had our highs and lows, but we've made it through. And I recently came out publicly that I'm engaged. And it was honestly one of the hardest things for me to do. You see, I come onto these platforms and I do talk about my trials and my tribulations and dating and relationships and friendships, etc. But I really don't fully express or tell you my whole life. Okay, now I have had some episodes where I am like, hey, here's the god-awful truth. It's right in front of you, and here it is. And other times, I'm trying not to stay in that field of telling you every detail of my life. Letting people know I'm engaged should have been really happy. And it is, to an extent. I'm happy, and that's all that matters. But the social anxiety that came along with being public about my engagement really did bring such social anxiety into my chest. You see, for me personally, being open and public about my engagement is a little scary for me. In my past, relationships that I've been extra open about don't always make it. Never have made it, actually. I'm here right now. And so I had this internal fear that if I am public about my relationship, then it must not be good. It must not be true. That it's coming to an end, which isn't the truth. And I've had my fair share of relationships where I've shown this illusion of happiness and love, when in reality all we did was fight and argue and sleep in separate rooms. I've given so many different illusions of my life for so long, I even think right now in this moment of my happiness is an illusion. I said it. You see, when you have gone through so many versions and seasons of survivorship, whether that's for me, sex trafficking, the modeling industry, losing my best friend at 20, losing my father at 11, losing good friends back in 2008 and watching my good friends grieve over those friends who died. When you have gone through many traumatic episodes, including rape and abusive relationships, you start to set standards on the fact that everything is fight or flight. that every part of your life is simply there for you to survive. And when you survive, then you'll eventually die, and that is it. Crazy toxic mindset there, right? It is. And a lot of times I have found the more survivors I speak to, shout out to my girlfriend and dear friend Kayla for this information, we tend to focus so much on the illusion and disappointment because we know it's there, than being present and being happy for ourselves. For example, I was in the modeling industry most of my 20s. Was also meant that how I dressed, how I talked, where I partied, was all part of this mask. I had to wear a mask. I had to show as though I'm the most confident, sexy woman alive, right? There was this character I played, and I played her well. But when I let go of that character and walked into a new season of life, I had no identity of who I was. I was in an identity crisis. And 7 years later, I still find myself in this identity crisis because I have these fears that I'm disappointing everyone around me. Because in my 20s, if you disappointed somebody in the industry I was in, you didn't get the job, you didn't get to travel, you didn't get what you wanted. Sometimes you would end up on a blacklist. Sometimes you would just end up doing the small minimal jobs to get by. And so you were always aiming to please. Please your client, please the photographer. And then in my personal life, I was always aiming to please in my relationships in a very unhealthy way, the sexual way. I didn't have many healthy relationships in my 20s because they were all solely based around sex. And when the sex faded, so did the relationship. More times than once did that happen. I have exes to tell you that same story. Oh yeah, once the sex died, we died. I was honest from the beginning of utilizing this platform to state, like, not only am I a survivor of trafficking, not only am I a survivor as a sex worker, but I'm also a survivor of an addiction towards sex because for years, I believed sex was everything. Sex is how you got paid. Sex is how you kept your relationships. Sex was on the table all the time. So much so that as I've been going through my healing and going through this journey and figuring out who I am and figuring out what the fuck am I supposed to do in this life, I have been concerned that my sex drive is too low. To only find out, talking with doctors, that my sex drive is normal. Meaning the sex drive that I thought was normal for 10 years was toxic, an illusion of reality, and an addiction. I've spent the last 7 years figuring out who I am. I've made some really poor decisions in life, but most importantly, the biggest and greatest decision I keep moving forward in my life with is being a mom. If you know anything about me, if we've ever had a friendship or anything close to a relationship, you know my daughter always comes first. I will protect her. I will protect her childhood. I will protect her from trauma. I will do whatever I can and sacrifice however I can to make sure she's first. And it's because of that mindset I know today my daughter's very happy. She's loving, she's caring, she's spunky, she is who I remember myself being as a child. Before the trauma, before the loss, before the grief. She reminds me a lot of me, and I'm really proud of that. In January, I made some really poor decisions. And my ex-fiance and I utilized our personal traumas of our past to mirror that in our arguments and where we were presently. In time, in a very short amount of time, we ended things. Parts of us, we both sabotaged. I've been putting way too much weight on myself, saying that I'm the sole reason we sabotaged that relationship. When in reality, we both did. We both were mirroring our energies and triggers from our past, our toxic relationships, our unhealthy marriages, and reflecting that on each other to a point that we both got to a place of tunnel vision. Now, my tunnel vision may be a little bit deeper and more direct than his, but at the end of the day, we called it quits. At that time, I made some really poor decisions after the fact. I felt lost again, completely, utterly lost. So I dove into work full time, and I've been really proud of the work I've accomplished, though there's more for me to accomplish. Because though I was diving into my work, I was also procrastinating on my own mental health and healing. Utilizing friends and alcohol as a way to cope with my emotions and feelings, and keeping into that direct light of tunnel vision so that I wouldn't have to take on extra grief or heartbreak from decisions that were made. In time, I've also gotten to a space where I've been in fear of disappointing others again. I've also pushed myself to give an illusion of reality that isn't the truth, but what I want you to see. Now, if you watched any of my other videos on here, you would know that I made some decisions to date and made some decisions to build some closure with former lovers, which was what I needed, and there was a lot of healing involved in all that. I did take that time to close doors, but I was so focused on closing the doors and finding closure, I wasn't actually fully focused on me as much as I thought I was. And this recently came out because of my fiance and I in a conversation, which led me to have this epiphany. I still, to this day, am comfortable in fight or flight. It's something that I have known most of my life, that I don't know anything else. I don't know or have had feelings of what true stability looks like. You see, once my father passed, my school season would be in Florida, but then I would go out to California and Washington State in the summer by myself. While other friends got together with other classmates and did fun vacations or things together, I was always out of state. And there's nothing wrong with that. But then on top of that, I also dealt with a childhood that if I didn't please the right way, I was punished for it. For example, when my mother gave away my dog, she felt I was giving too much attention to my dog and not enough attention on other things, like my academics. So one weekend when I was on a mission trip, I get home to no dog. And that was a big imprint in my life because at that point, it had only been a few years after my dad had passed. I also at that time saw my grandmother pass. I saw my mom's best friend pass away from breast cancer. And we also recently got rid of our family business, and she was now working at the college. And so I had dealt with so much loss that at that moment of losing my dog, the one thing that I still held attachment and emotion to, I no longer. At a very young age, I lost attachment to emotions. I lost that attachment to vulnerability. And I also learned if I wasn't people-pleasing, things would go south. This would happen in other ways throughout my childhood, whether I would come home from school or from work to see that my bedroom, all of my drawers, and everything that was in my dresser drawers was pulled out and put into a pile in the middle of my bedroom because it wasn't up to the standards my mother had for the cleanliness of my room. Another way of teaching me that if I'm not people pleasing and giving all that I possibly can and emptying my cup to make sure things go right, I was punished. There was this moment in my late teens, early 20s when I met my biological family. And my mother got very upset. I could almost say she got jealous. She got jealous of the relationship I was starting to build. So much so that she locked me out of the house that I grew up in. Locked me out. Again, because I wasn't people-pleasing in the way of her standards, I was punished. I had to figure out a way to break into my own house, pack my suitcase, and ask my biological brother to take me to the airport to go back to DC. Again, another way that my people-pleasing wasn't up to par, and so I was punished. I would keep up that mindset and tactics throughout my 20s. If I didn't please the man the right way, I was punished. If I didn't please my photographers or my managers, I was punished. I got so good at people pleasing, I forgot me. I forgot me. 7 years later, I'm still figuring out what that means. Man, I didn't think I was going to cry today talking with you because I really did my makeup really nice today. In my marriage, he wasn't home often. He would be out with his friends and other women. And so I felt if I could clean house, keep up with it with our daughter, keep up in general, keep up in general, okay? Like keep up with the house, keep up with our child, keep up, that he would want to come home, right? Again, emptying that cup. And then when I realized he wasn't going to come home, I started doing things for me. Disney, for example. Disney was a huge part of my healing. It was. I got to relive my childhood in a way that I don't even remember as a child, to be honest. I got to enjoy seeing my daughter's face light up with joy when watching the fireworks or going on a ride. And it was beautiful, and I was embracing our childhood again, together. Ignoring my feelings, keeping up with the illusion of my reality that my husband didn't love me, and keeping up with a standard that was enough to fill my cup ever so slightly. But then again, I felt when the house wasn't done, when the dinner wasn't on in the kitchen ready to eat, I still felt punished by my husband. I never felt enough. I remember one point in our marriage where I really just wanted him to notice me. I was battling so many emotions and battling my weight, okay? Weight is a big thing after having a kid, right? It's one thing that we have to embrace our bodies, and our bodies are different now, and our hips are wider, and things are a little bit different. But this is roughly like close to like my daughter's second year, and I was still battling some weight issues, but now it was the opposite. I couldn't keep the weight on. I was getting too, ugh. And so one evening, he was downstairs playing his video games, and I went downstairs in a little lingerie outfit. I waited, didn't even get noticed. I started taking images and photos from the bedroom, trying to get him upstairs to have some time. Didn't even notice. It would be in that time I realized that we were not on the same page. We had a lot of fights. We couldn't love each other the way that we needed to be successful in our marriage, to be successful as parents. We wanted different things, and we couldn't see eye to eye. Never could. We constantly fought. And if we weren't fighting, we were ignoring each other. And if we were ignoring each other, we a lot of times weren't even in the same house. He would take on those extra weekends and side hustles and curriculum that was out of town. And I spent a lot of time alone with my little one, with our little one. Again, in my mind though, I felt like I was being punished. Punished for not being enough. Punished that my body wasn't coming back to a size that was sexy or a standard that I felt my husband could see and feel and appreciate. I felt punished for myself. I was really unhappy. And so one day, towards the end, when we decided that I was going to be moving across country, we decided that together. We sat down at our favorite restaurant and we said, wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice if one day we were both happy separately and able to share that happiness with our kid? Wouldn't it be nice to be able to show her not only unconditional love, but also be able to show her that two parents can co-parent and coexist together, love each other, lovingly love each other as friends, yet witness true unconditional love with a partner that really fits us, really fits our piece of the puzzle. Wouldn't it be nice? And so we moved on. I've spent the last 3 years here trying to figure out who the hell I am. Again, an identity crisis, because again, I left the industry because I was hospitalized, okay? I got pregnant less than 6 months after I left the industry. I had my last photo shoot when I was 3 months pregnant, and then I went straight into mom mode right after, which is not a bad thing, but there was no time to understand and appreciate finding my identity. So I put all of my eggs in a basket, and my identity was mother and wife. That was it. Nothing more, nothing less. So when I moved here, all of a sudden, everything came crashing down. I was in a loss of identity across the board. All of a sudden, I was having this rude awakening of what being a survivor of sex trafficking was, and walking through that healing journey. I was in an identity crisis of figuring out, am I a life coach? Am I an author? Am I a writer? Am I a radio personality host? What am I? What am I in all this? Figuring this out while managing being a single mom. Again, identity crisis. I've made some poor decisions. We all have. That's called life. That's called life. And for me personally, being able to share is really difficult. Heck, some of my dear friends here in this little town will tell you they don't know my whole story. And there's many occasions where I will just jump in and be like, oh, I made this decision. They're like, you didn't even talk to us. When did that happen? But you know what? It's because for me personally in my life, whether it was my teen years or my young adult years, I was punished anytime I would make a decision that was outside the norm. I felt like I was disappointing the world when I would do anything for me. And I didn't feel like anyone understood me. And a lot of that comes too from that feeling that we are our worst enemy. So I, on occasion, have this little voice in my head that tells me I can't trust anybody. I have not been able to fully trust a single soul other than myself and my daughter for years. Because in my reality, everybody walks away. In my reality, it's manipulation. In my reality, it's narcissism. In my reality, it's abuse, emotional abuse. In my reality, there must be strings attached. My reality sometimes is so caught up on the distrust of others and feeling like everything has to have some underlining meaning or purpose behind it, that I sometimes don't feel like I trust myself. Some of that stems from my childhood, from feeling like anytime my mother did anything for me, there were strings attached. Always strings attached. To this day, I am being reminded of things that I did years ago because there was a string still attached to it and it's still brought up. And so today, I have a hard time receiving gifts or money or even celebrating anything, because there must be a string attached. You see, when I had my first wedding, it was big. It was beautiful and big. It was in a small little cathedral. The reception was at the Hilton. It was beautiful. It was luxurious. It was literally my dream wedding at 21. But because at 21, I was immature and very excited for my life in the big city, I didn't take some responsibilities I needed to at hand. For example, writing my thank you cards. And because I didn't write those thank you cards, I had family that cut me off. Again, punishment. I didn't do the people pleasing. I didn't take those responsibilities the right way. So there was a cutoff. And so when I got raped, when I and my ex started cheating on each other, when I was going through my spiral, when we were both at rock bottom, I felt like I didn't have family to go to. And when I would cry to help to my mom, there were strings attached. There always has been. And again, it's that feeling everyone leaves. You don't do something right, everybody leaves. When I told certain friends that I was pregnant and who the father was, some of them left. Again, I made a decision, people leave. All I've been able to know and understand in my life for so long is people leave. I haven't, aside from my sister Brittany, who I trust deeply, deeply love, my reality is everybody leaves. So what is the feeling that I get when I do anything? Well, there's a fight or flight. It's something of comfort now. I'm so accustomed to fight or flight that I have done so for years. In my relationships, in anything, it's fight or flight. And so in January, instead of fighting for something good, instead of openly discussing and talking about the trials that were playing out, I flew. Because that's what I knew best. I don't know how to fight. The only way I know how to fight is honestly for my kid. That is it. Anything else? That's why I don't even get attached to anything I own. How sad is that? I don't get attached to anything I own because I'm like, it could go away. I could lose it tomorrow. I don't get attached to anything I own. I'm so used to flying. I've been so accustomed to flying since I was a child. There was a moment when, shortly after my dad passed, that I began to go through this addiction of lying, exaggerating the truth. I was feeling very alone. I didn't feel like family was talking to me. I didn't feel like I was anything to anybody, to be honest. I felt like a ghost, and I didn't feel like my voice mattered. And so I would make up an illusion of my reality. Little would I know, I would keep up that illusion of my reality through my 20s. That's why for some it was a shock to know that I'm a survivor of sex trafficking. But you were a model and you look so happy, and You were chasing your dreams. Yeah. Bless me. It's because that's what I wanted you to see. You didn't see the trials. You didn't see I felt my body was the worth and that was that and there was nothing more. You didn't see that I was numb of emotion and numb in life in general. In general, I was numb in life. I've been numb in life. So if I wanted to make a decision about a month ago to reach out to the one person who saw through my fight or flight, who saw through my trials, who saw through my identity as a survivor, and asked him, could we start again? And he said yes. I will do whatever it takes now. See, he's the miracle I didn't know the universe had waiting for me. He's the one person where I don't feel like my body's an object. He's the one person where I feel like it's not about my sexuality, it's about my soul. If I wanted to take that moment and work on us and be silent for a moment, who cares? It's for me. See, for me, I'm just now stepping into my happiness. For me, I'm just now stepping into my new beginnings. For me, I am stepping into this identity of figuring out, okay, I'm a public speaker, I'm an author, I'm an advocate, I'm a feminist, I am a life coach, I am Vulnerable Mo, I am going to be a wife, I am a mother, and it's all going to be wrapped up in one beautiful package that is me. And it's taken me some time to figure that out, and that's okay. Most of us have this opportunity to figure this out in our 20s. But like I've said, if you are a survivor of trafficking, your time to figure it out is after the life. And that age range is all over the board. And those first 7 years are the hardest. Absolute hardest. These past 7 years have been the hardest of my life. Figuring out my identity and who I am, not what other people want me to be, but who I am, getting through it. Because like I said from the very beginning of this episode is I'm having a hard time feeling like I'm not disappointing others by my decisions right now. And I've had to come to terms that I don't care. And that is a hard pill to swallow. I don't care. I need to do me. Because, I can talk about I don't care all the time. I can talk about I can do me all the time. Sure, I speak on that often on this channel. But I fight my demons every single day that think differently. I fight the enemy inside me every single day that thinks differently. Since opening the door to this new version of happiness and healthy relationship, I have had a better relationship with my ex-husband. I've gotten to know his wonderful girlfriend. I have had better communication with my daughter. I have seen her thrive and in a very happy, adjusted, comforting, stable way that I've never seen her before. And I knew I was making the right decisions very early on because this man decided to forgive me the same way I forgive him. This man decided to know that he He wants to be my partner for life. And no one and nothing is going to get in the way of that. That we have been through hell and back. We have been bullied. We have been told this is a disaster. Guess what? It's not. He is older. Get over it. But if you look at my track history of dating, my healthiest relationships was with older men, because I have an old soul. I have such an old soul. I remember my 8th grade graduation after party, where all of the friends, all the classmates were playing in this huge house, playing with bottle rockets and those, they just spark, what are they called? Poppets, okay? And I remember them throwing at each other and like actually playing with fireworks inside the house, right? And having like the blast. I was in the kitchen with the moms, enjoying conversation and political decision making that was happening in the world at that time, and discussing what the future holds. I was discussing what it was going to be like after I left high school. We were talking about politics and foreign affairs and having this beautiful conversation. That's what I remember about 8th grade graduation. The highlight was spending time with the parents. Hello? I have an old soul. I'm okay with that. I don't want to be out there drinking and partying every night. I want to be home in bed by 10:30, 11 at the latest. I want quiet nights without the TV on and reading a book. And he gives me all these things, and I'm happy and content, and it's okay. Let me be happy. Let me be content. Let us be happy and content. Being content for me has never happened. So the fact that I'm even out here shouting, hey, not only am I happy, but I'm in a place where I feel secure, where I feel comforted, where I feel like I am in my space of peace. I just spoke of the last 37 minutes how I have been in fight or flight mode all my entire life. So if I'm now in this space of, I'm okay. I really am. Let me have it. You can be worried for me, sure. But let me have my moment. And I don't need to ask you for me to have that validation or have that moment. I can do that on my own. The one thing I have learned, and this is something my girlfriend Kayla said today, the greatest, what is the word? Sorry. So my girlfriend Kayla said to me this morning, one of the greatest things about being a survivor is because we have survived so much hell and we have been through the pits of hell, we take risks. We take risks that others may think are damaging, that others may think are a little bit reckless, but we take them. And most of the time, those risks actually get us in a different direction that is positive. Sometimes there's risks, not so much, but that's life. But we're risk takers in a way that is for our health, in a way that is for our happiness, because we are tired of living in the shadow. And she's so right. Taking risks is a big part of who we are. We're no longer living in the shadow. We are figuring ourselves out. And it takes a while to know your faults. It takes a while to know your flaws. It takes a while to recognize where you still need work. It takes a while to still recognize your toxic behavior. Hell, I'm talking to you today, and I'm still figuring this out. That's been clear this whole time. It's like, yes, I have been in fight or flight mode most of my life. Yes, people pleasing has been a huge part of my life. Yes, I have a hard time taking gifts or anything because I always feel there's strings attached, and I'm always feeling like I'm disappointing others. Yes, I have some issues I'm still getting through, but I'm here talking with you today because guess what? If I'm talking about it, maybe someone on the other side of this camera is feeling this and recognizing that they are not alone, and they can get through this, and they will get through this, and they will survive, and they will break through, and they will continue to heal, because this is what it's all about. This is what it's all about. The healing piece, the breakthrough piece. The moment of recognizing that you are happy and thriving and in your space, in your element. And that's where I am right now. Did it give me social anxiety to publicly say I'm engaged? 100%. Am I happy I did so? Yes, because I was releasing a part of me that I haven't done, and I don't care. I'm happy. I took that step. I took that risk to be public and honest and open. It's scary. 100% scary. But I'm with my person. So if there's bullies out there or people who want to hurt me with words, go ahead. It's not going to hurt me anymore. Because I'm with my person. And my person is all that matters. We're going to get through life together. We're promising that we're going to get through life together. And that's beautiful. He helps me see where I still have work I need to do. The same way I help him see the work he still needs to do for himself, but we're going to do it together. And those are the healthiest relationships. If you can get through that, you can get through anything. If you can push each other to get through your traumas, to go through your healing, to work on your triggers, to be present for each other, that's a healthy relationship. And it's taken me a long time to figure that out. My illusion of being a hopeless romantic is exhausting. I'm never going to think that way again. And yes, I literally just woke up one day and was like, fuck this. Hopeless romantic thing is just something out of a movie or TV show. That's not the reality. Reality is meeting someone and realizing you can't live without them, and you will go through hell and back to make sure they are by your side no matter what. That's reality. At least that is for me. Yes, I'm still working on figuring out my identity, but who isn't? Who isn't evolving and changing and growing and becoming? So keep going, keep doing you. We're all doing this. We're all figuring ourselves out. We're all evolving. We're all growing. We're all in this together. We are. One day at a time. We're in this together. Thank you for listening and have a beautiful week. Talk to you soon.